habit kind of thing. And we looked at the pictures and they looked really nice, and it said ocean view, privacy, all this, right? So we drive in, we get our rental vehicle, we land, we get our rental vehicle, we drive, it was a little Subaru Forester, it was a really cool car. We drove and got to the rental place management company, got our keys, drove out to the house, and by privacy what they meant was surrounded on three sides by houses. And what they meant by ocean view was if you go upstairs, walk out on the upstairs balcony, and then look around the roof, down through the neighbors' roofs, you will see a postage stamp of water. And randomly a bird flying over top. And the house will smell very, very stale. We said, no. So we went out to the rental place. We did a great job between me playing the bad cop going, this is unacceptable. In the listing it said privacy, and that, I don't know what that means, but it doesn't mean three sides covered by houses, and ocean view, which I don't think means if you crane your neck around you can see part of water. We really want a different place or something else. And then my wife, you know, on cue, bursting into tears. That's not really what happened, but it makes a much better story if I tell it that way. If you know my wife, she's not the type to just burst into tears and cry like that. So they gave us another house which was had kind of an ocean view, and by ocean view I mean a canal that went to the ocean, so it was water. The water was connected to the ocean, and it was actually very nice and much more secluded, and we were very happy because we got to be alone. Can I get an amen? How many of you want to go on a honeymoon right now with your spouse, husband, and wife? I'm telling you right now, if you're dating or engaged, I encourage, as a pastor and as a spiritual authority figure, I encourage a two-week honeymoon. A minimum 2 weeks. Because the first week you're going to decompress from the wedding, and the second week you're going to enjoy. And so a 2-week minimum is really, really good. I'm just putting that there for you. In fact, if you watch Bridezilla, you know that people spend way too much money on weddings. Cut back on the wedding and put it into the honeymoon. Okay? Now, what you just saw was not, there was a good undertone of male voices that just went around the room, but the women were going, they look like bobbleheads when I said that. Okay? The wedding lasts for a couple of hours, and you can make it nice on the cheap. The dollar store is your friend. You think I'm joking. Those white candles, they're only going to burn for a little bit. They look just as nice as the other ones. And just check my neck for red. And it's about the marriage and the relationship, and that's about getting away and spending some quality time with the other person. Can I get an amen from the married couple?
What?
Ever feel like you need to get away? You know, sometimes when you hit crisis, you got to get away again. You've been married for 30-some years. There's probably, I'm guessing, been a point in your marriage where you hit a moment that said, we got to stop and get away. This marriage needs some time right now because we're facing crisis. I had friends that they faced an amazingly huge crisis in their marriage. Marriage was to the point of breaking. And they stopped almost everything. Stopped a lot of their church involvement, social commitments, all the stuff of life that pulled them in 187 million different directions. Stopped and said, we got to spend time together. We got to be alone. We're talking, this is the last weekend of our series called It's Time. We've been talking about how I believe passionately that it's time for you and for me to pursue God much more deeply than we've ever pursued Him before. That it's time for you and me to pursue God with an intimacy and a passion that probably is not common in America today. Pursue Him with a passion because He is God, and so by His very nature, He deserves that. Pursuing God because He's God and He has the answers to the stuff of life that have been frustrating us for so long anyway, that we've been running and trying to find so hard. He has the answers to the pain that's been in our hearts, that's been ripping us up for so long, and yet we keep running after everything else. It's time to pursue God. We're coming to the end of this. And what may be the most confusing, challenging, baffling piece of this whole journey. We've talked about spending time with God every day. We've talked about Bible study. We've talked about prayer. We've talked about God saying, hey, take a break and be with me. Have you had your break today? You remember from last week? And today we're talking about an intensive honeymoon with God. Now, I want you to imagine this for a second. You live back thousands of years ago in Mesopotamia, and you live in one of those big cities. One of the big cities. It takes you about 3 days to get through the city. There's about 100 to 150,000 people, which is really big for a city that day. It's about the size of Vancouver, Washington, for comparison's sake, or about 3 meridians as far as population. It's a pretty decent-sized city for the day, and the cities are the center of the population. There's the outlying community, rural areas around that, but the city is the place of commerce, it's the place of religion, it's the place of power, it's the place of where the authority, the soldiers are, it's the place of where the king is. It all centers around the city. That's the place to be. It's where technology develops the fastest, and you got walls there to protect you. 33-foot high walls. All the way around the city. Now, 33 feet may not seem terribly high to you, but if you don't have airplanes and scissor lifts, 33 feet starts to look pretty imposing. Okay? You don't have a helicopter, you just take you right over, and no hot air balloons for the, real simple. That 33 feet high is pretty huge, and it's about 50 feet thick. It's a serious wall. About every 60 feet are towers. And around this city, there's 15 gateways, and each gate was also a barracks for soldiers. So every day, as you went around your business, you were surrounded by power and safety, security in your city. You have the range of people from the people in commerce, you have artisans, traders, everything come through the city. Everybody wants to come through the city. It's the power center. And as you walk around, you're surrounded by temples and gardens. You're given space to build and plant, so it's beautiful. There's running water going down by the street, so you can get clean water, because clean water was incredibly important. The cities were the home bed of where, a little bit after this time, is where they invented indoor plumbing, because creating clean water was so important that they created a way to keep it clean, which was getting rid of waste another way. So these cities were, you walked through and you just saw all this stuff all the time. You lived a good life in the city. You saw religion, you passed the temple and prayed to your God and give him an offering, a sacrifice. You saw the palace where the king lived.